Hello, welcome to Zatu Games. Among Us is a mobile and PC game that has been taking the world by storm, even though it's over 2 years old. Did you know there's a board game that plays almost exactly like Among Us? Let's go check it out. Among Us is a game that has been taking the video gaming world by storm, particularly streamers, Twitchers, and all those sorts of people. It is a game that plays on our suspicions and paranoia by setting us a very relatively simple task. You're all space people in a space station, and you have to fix that space station and achieve tasks to win the game. However, 1 to 3 of you are traitors who are trying to kill the rest of the crew. They can't participate in the tasks, they can only pretend, which sometimes gives you clues to who they are, and they are the only crew members that can enter the vent system. This creates a game of finger pointing, tension, and suspicion that plays out much like the board games it was based on. You see, Among Us has existed in board game form for a long time under the names, and even before that probably as myth and folklore and kind of games that have been passed down as Mafia and Werewolf. They were the first times I encountered them, just as games that you play with a deck of cards. Of course, Mafia and Werewolf have become more structured, and you can buy various versions of those, including a legacy version now. But there is one board game in this genre that has stood out to me as more of a direct take on Among Us than perhaps some of the others. And that is the Menace Among Us. It even says Among Us right there. And interestingly, I'm not sure if perhaps one or the other played the game. I think this originally came out 2019. I think the video game predated it, but wasn't really popular around then. And what the Menace Among Us does is it sets you all up in a very similar situation. You are all aboard a ship, and you have 2 crucial systems. You have your power and your O2. And if your O2 ever goes to 0%, you're going to lose the game. If your power ever drops below the safety zone, depending on your player count, you are going to lose the game. Yet again, there are some menaces among you. And again, you're not sure how many there are. There could be more or less depending on player count. And they very much so, like in Among Us, can look like helpful members of the team. In the video game, however, you're all going to be playing cards face down to a pile or choosing to pass. Those cards are then shuffled up and played out in a random order, so you never quite know who's played what. Of course, if all the cards are good, then you know that everyone's played a good card. But if there's a couple of bad ones in there, you know that some people have played bad cards. The trick is that sometimes good players will have to play bad cards, and bad players can always choose to play good cards. Now, added to this are some characters with different powers. Every character has above deck actions and below deck actions, which can help or hinder depending on what your achievements are. On the back of every character card, it also gives you a guide to all the cards, whether they're good, neutral, or bad. Now, it is true that a Menace character is likely to have more bad cards than any other character, but sometimes good characters will have bad cards as well. And also what's really great about this is that this character guide gives you a unique setup from the masses of cards that are in here. So you're going to have a different setup of cards. Like there is this reactor leak, which is a below deck action, which means that an unwounding crew member who played a below deck action card receives a wound. Each character can only receive 2 wounds before they're dead. And then there's different goals that you have depending on what role you draw. For example, if you are a crew member here, the Vengeant, your primary goal is that when you win when the crew reaches the energy goal, complete your primary goal with at least one other player killed, and then you will can also win the game. So you can add in these other kind of powers and identities as well. So there's a lot of variety in here. There is voting. There is a cardboard gun. Probably the worst part of the game is the way that this cardboard gun is supposed to stand up with just that. I mean, it kind of works. But during the discussion phase, which is like a crew meeting in Among Us, you will be saying, well, I deliberately passed to see what these three cards were, because I've suspected two of them, and so on and so forth. And then when someone picks up the gun and points at someone, it triggers a vote on that person. If the vote is successful, they're not immediately killed, they're sent to the hull, to the brig, where they can still play their below deck actions, and they can still influence things, and they can still draw cards as well. So they can still have a role. So they're not quite out of the system yet. You still need to get 2 wounds on them to kill them completely. So you might have brigged someone who is actually really, really good for you, but they can still have a warning. They can still have an effect on a game. Where I think a game like this outshines the video game implementation is in the fact that you can look each other in the eyes, and you can whine these stories, you can wink at people, you can do all sorts of clever little things that are risky if you get caught. I remember a game of this I played where I was a menace and there was one other menace in the game, and they got killed straight away, and it was really clear they were the menace because of what they did, but they were in the brig. Sorry, they didn't get killed, they got put in the brig, so they could still influence things. So I kind of leaned back and let out a sly wink, and they saw it, and they helped engineer my ultimate victory, which was brilliant. The other thing that helped in that game was my 10-year-old son was in that game. He was 9 at the time, and he can usually read me like a book. However, he decided that this Christian minister who was sat next to him, was far more suspicious than me, which, and I just managed to gently stoke that fire, not by doing anything overt, but by doing really subtle things and playing along to the things that he was suggesting, and just all those sorts of things that kind of can happen in Among Us, but happen better when you're face to face. There's also, which could be in the Among Us video game, there's also these individual player powers, individual stuff that each player can do. The fact that the menaces are more useful. So in the video game, when you go to do a task, you literally stand by something, then something will come up on the screen and you'll have to do it. And sometimes there's a visual clue that this is happening. Now, the menaces in that cannot do anything about that. They can stand next to it, but they have to judge how long to stand there. They have to be aware that some of them have visual clues, so they shouldn't go to those ones, and that's a good way to draw someone out. If they're claiming their innocence and they say they've got a task with a visual clue, you say, right, let's go with you and see you do it then. So this has some strong advantages over the video game. Where the video game has advantages are in the breadth of the tasks. In here, you're just kind of putting oxygen or power back into the ship as much as you can. In the video game, you've got loads of different tasks. You're heading all over the ship. There's opportunities for you to be alone with people, which creates a different kind of tension, which a board game can't replicate. And I'd love to see a combined one. The best versions of Among Us for me work when we're on Discord, and I think they'd work even better if you were on video chat, but of course you'd have to not look at the screen and see people going, yes, when they do stuff. But having a video chat at that meeting phase would be really, really fun. But I think this does an excellent job at adding something a little bit more. It's a little bit different kind of tension. And if you're looking to replicate Among Us with people who don't use phones, who like that kind of face-to-face interaction, this is a really good way of doing that. It also can be simplified or complicated with some of the options more. So do check out the Menace Among Us on our website. I think it's a great buy, especially for people who like to either stab each other in the back or feel really clever about their choices. So there you have it. Do head over to our website where you can find The Menace Among Us and many more great games. Also a very active blog where we're giving you our opinion and loads of features on board games. Like and subscribe to this video, hit the bell for notifications, and remember, we are live on Twitch and Facebook during the week, and we are also on Instagram and Twitter. Search Zatu Games on all those formats and you should find us with our stunningly orange Z logo. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.